Hi, and welcome to today's Graduate Mentor Workshop. Thank you all so much for responding to the invite. It's really great to see everyone here. And we're all ready to learn from our speaker today, who is Joe Little. So Joe has over 35 years of experience in helping businesses develop a transformation strategy to keep their company relevant within the market for the next 10 to 20 years or so. And he has worked with such a wide variety of industries and companies. So it will be a really good insight to hear from him today, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot. So just whilst Joe is speaking, just please make sure you are on mute and your camera is off. But remember, you do have the opportunity to ask any questions in the chat, and then we can cover it all in the end. And this webinar is recorded too, so you do have the chance to come back to it if you need to in the future. So on that note, Joe, would you like to take over?
Certainly. So welcome everyone. Good afternoon if it's this time zone. So I'm Joe Little. I'm Professor Joe Little now, as of 2 weeks ago. I'm currently a digital entrepreneur in residence at the University of Stirling. And what I'm going to do today is really a presentation on the future, really. What sort of skills you're going to need in 10 years' time, and how people kind of look at that as a time frame, and really from my work, both at BP and subsequently, what the world of work is going to be in that period of time, and therefore ultimately what sort of skills you're going to need to develop is really my punchline. Just going to give you a tiny bit of my background so you know who you're talking to, and then I'll get into the meat of the presentation. So yeah, I'm going to start off with this one-liner, which you'll hear in various different formats as years go by, and that is that 85% of jobs that will exist in 10 years' time haven't even been invented yet, and it's when you look at jobs that were around 10 years ago that are now pretty much gone, like TV repairmen and film projectionists. And then those which now exist, like cloud computing specialists and even sort of social media influencers, you can see that in 10 years, a lot of things can change. And we can only begin to sort of start to predict what sort of jobs are going to be around in 10 years' time, be that quantum programmers or environmental espionage officers, or even a meat addiction counsellor. So my point to this is that the world is changing, and it's changing very, very quickly. A lot of it through technology, but a lot of it how we're changing the world of work. So a little bit about my background. As I mentioned, I'm digital entrepreneur residence, now professor at the University of Stirling. I did a computing science degree there, and then 2 years at British Aerospace, Space and Communications, where amongst a number of things, I actually helped develop an engineering data management system for the ISS. I then had 30 years in BP oil and gas, and the latter 13 years of that was in a team set up by Laura Brown and John Leggett, really because they were kind of fed up with consultants coming in and telling them what the future was going to be like, and wasting hundreds of millions of dollars on things which weren't of any value to the company. So instead, they got people like myself to go out and do the research with academia, with venture capitalists, go to Silicon Valley and Redmond and Boston and Singapore and South Korea, and really research what the future is going to be like, and the sort of technologies we're going to deal with there, and then come back and educate through live sessions, through actually doing proof of concepts, and eventually that evolved into things like hackathons, and work with venture capitalists, work with subject matter SMEs and others to try and bring technology into the company. I actually focused on several technologies which I led at the time. So immersive technologies like what we now call the metaverse, AR, VR, igloos, virtual worlds, games engines, etc. Also satellite, remote operations, and then onto robotics, with a few little studies along the way around what the future of things is going to be for the business. I'm also a certified future forecaster. So when we were doing the futures work, we actually engaged with the Institute for the Future, and Association of Professional Futurists, and I'll come on to that a little bit later as to what we did with them. But I basically saw what they did and thought, this is wonderful. This is a skill that I'd love to have. So I trained with IFTF, and I'm now qualified as a futurist. If you want to know more about the team that I was in, these 3 books here are great studies on what we did and how we built and how we continue to do so. I mentioned the future studies that I did. So what you now see is the future of mobility, and the electric vehicles are now appearing in petrol and gas stations. You see now was the result of that work. And really that was placing the business in a scenario which was 10 years hence, what technologies are likely to be around, and therefore what scenarios and potential businesses we need to start building as a company. I also worked on the future of the airport. This was a study for ABP, which was requested from Dubai and from Changi Airport around what's the future of the airport going to look like, and with a challenge of trying to increase throughput by 50%. What can we do now or start building now to make that happen? So we looked at robotic refueling, we looked at blockchain to manage the whole turnaround, we looked at advanced AI to look at weather patterns and traffic in aircraft. We looked at video analytics to look at the actual people who are joining flights in the airport to see if they were going to be late, and therefore we had to bump their luggage, things like that, anything which could actually sort of slow down the aircraft being turned around, and automating as much as possible. Also did some work on Industry 4.0 and the future of work, and there'll be more about this later on, as to really how Industry 4.0 is going to address large companies like the one I was in, and really what they needed to do to actually begin to future-proof themselves. So what's a futurist? So yeah, the corporate strategists, they'll probably want to call themselves strategic foresight specialists, government agencies, artists, sci-fi writers, which isn't a huge surprise. Historians are wonderful at documenting past events, and then actually also documenting future events as if they were real. So they have a great interest in the future. Entrepreneurs, clearly, because they know to invest in. Technologists, because they have need insights to how their new technologies are actually going to fit in a future world. And game designers. So a real mixture of people who are part of the Futurist community. We meet regularly to explore the future, the signals we're seeing, what that might mean, and then come back with some meaningful content by way of 10-year studies. And really kind of the grandfather of all this movement was kind of William Gibson, and his view that the future's already here. It's just not very evenly distributed, and that was in his book Future Shock, some nearly 50 years ago now. And what he actually meant by that was that there are signals to the future already happening. You need to be tuned into them, and you need to understand how they're likely to play out. And then there's less shock. You actually begin to live in that world, and you begin to understand how things play out, and therefore you're less averse to it. And more hopefully, you've actually got some degree of autonomy. So I'll give you a really quick signal of the future. So this was Elon Musk, or do you think? This was a Zoom call between these two individuals here, and bizarrely, Elon Musk actually appeared in the middle of the call and appeared to be interacting as if he was really Elon Musk. He wasn't. It was actually an AI. It was generated and then dropped into Zoom calls very, very cheaply, very, very easily, using tools which are easily brought down from the internet and used, and was very convincing. So this kind of gives a bit of a signal as to the level of kind of the extent, as it were, that this sort of AI was actually developing going into the future, and where the threats could be. So coming back to William Gibson, what he really meant was, we are currently in today with this first curve, and the way of doing things will gradually decrease and be replaced by a new way of doing things, tomorrow's way of doing things. The signals will start now, and really where it gets interesting is really on that crossover, when we begin to see the impact of those futures happening. We look at signals, patterns and trends in a societal, technology, environmental, economic, political, legal and ethical framework. So anything in all of those, not just technology, which could be a signal of change. And there's certainly significant drivers of change as well. currently, the climate emergency, social injustice with Black Lives Matter, an increasing economic divide between the rich and the poor, which has only further got worse with COVID, and the dramatic impact of technology now, which is producing new opportunities but also new threats. We frame the future in a number of different scenarios, so it's not all going to be great or bad. So we tend to frame potential scenarios using these signals and drivers of change in a growth, a collapse, a transformation, or a constrained context. And we do so in a way that it feels like it's an historical event. So really create artifacts of the future, news articles, videos, a means by which it feels like you're actually already there. And then we look for other things like unexpected consequences of this future and what may happen there, which may in fact be unexpected. But at least if we go through a few rounds of looking at that, we can again start planning for those as well. The important thing in all of this is when looking at the future, you try very, very hard not to look for blind spots in your thinking. And that's really where organizations have to be very diverse and inclusive in the decision making and also in looking at the future. And fortunately, I'll come on to another slide on this as to how you can actually prevent that. So first of all, I mean, looking at the future, there are no facts. Nobody can fully predict the future and all the events, which is what people would like to have. They want to have leaders who can provide them with some degree of certainty as to what's going on. But the best that really leaders can do is provide a clarity of possibilities there and the actions and insight that we need to go forward with. You need to establish a culture both personally and within your organizations of looking at foresight, taking the time out to really explore where things may change in the future. Any insights from that, you really do need to then get into action on it, and do so and continually sort of refresh that, going through your assumptions and the insights and the actions that you went through. The optimal time frame for looking at the future is 10 years. Why? That's because really in 10 years there will be a significant amount of change, but also, it gives you a chance to have some sort of agency over it. If you are, an old man like me, 10 years into the future is still possible, but if I'm, say, 80 or 90, that may be less of a concern for me. But there's still some agency around how that future is going to be. And as we're seeing signals now and how they're playing out, you've got some sense of how you can change or make the future that bit better. View of the future is really got to be sort of viewed as though it's a different country. It's a whole different new set of values and politics and legal structures. And you really do need to view it that way, that things could be that dramatically different. Get some strong views there, but lightly hold on to them as the world sort of unravels. Challenge what your views are and refresh them. And as I say, managing blind spots, there's more help than ever. So there are several movements now who are within the Futurist community who present themselves really and research futures with their own background imprinted on it. And that's largely because if you look at sci-fi right now, or sci-fi as it's been 10 years ago, it tends to be focused on just a few ethnic groups with values which are very, very narrow. So there are communities who actually create futures like Afrofuturism. Probably the best example of that is Black Panther. And others looking at indigenous futures and others with LGBTQ plus futures, who try and bring in elements of their world and their views to create a future which is that bit more inclusive. And these are the sort of things we produced. So this is the 10-year forecast that was just over 18 months ago. As you probably appreciate, we were in the middle of the pandemic, and this was not a great time. A lot of injustice going on, a lot of supply chain breakage, like a climate emergency going on all over that. And again, as you can see from there, we look at the different sort of views in this world that there could be a degree of growth where capitalists come in trying to save the economy, collapse where political power begins to break down, as we started to see, social solidarity being the transformational element where we start to look at some more mutuality in organizations that we value, and more response from them. And then constraint, where things like the COVID-19 pandemic cause us to really isolate ourselves a lot more. So why is it worth looking so far out? So again, when I was doing the future of work piece of work at my last company, we kind of wanted to look at what the world's like 10 to 15 years out, and really what we saw was a hyper adoption of highly disruptive technologies like robotics and AI and quantum technology that were really going to dramatically change how we do work. And as a result, significant job elimination or transformation, more like. So almost every job that can be automated will be automated, and therefore human beings will get to do the things that they're really good at, making decisions or insights, being creative, and being immersed in creating new opportunities and new jobs. So human beings themselves need to adapt, augment, and reskill to survive. By that, mean augmenting themselves with AI and cobots, wearables, AI advisors, context to the data that they provide with digital twins, and really help nurture and deploy skills that are going to be harder to automate. So develop the creativity, leadership, and emotional intelligence roles. Human beings may you may be lucky enough now to get to 100 years as a lifespan, of which 60 years of those could be working with a 5-year skills half-life. So constant reskilling is going to be crucial to you. Learning is going to be a way of life for you. For organizations or enterprises, work is going to be much more organized dynamically on tasks rather than roles. So really sort of creating services and platforms to engage individuals to do a task, hiring them, finding them, paying them quickly, and those individuals really expecting to be alongside both badged employees, contractors, and maybe even robots and AI. So, I mean, for the enterprise, you can see some of the recommendations that I had there was, a real move towards an agile organization, focus on hiring skills and ability well in the way from position and qualifications, and a real investment in the technologies that allow them to do that. Driving on staff into lifelong learning using online tools or simulators or immersive learning, and really get individuals within the organization to have this DNA of being a lifelong learner. And more importantly, for an enterprise like the one I was at, real focus on digital skills at the core of the organization, not just an outsourced periphery. So that was key to I think most enterprises now. Technology is everywhere. Digital skills are required everywhere, and therefore we need to enhance those. So what does it mean for skills providers? Well, really, it's really looking at that overall model, a real challenge to how we teach, providing those online modules a lot more, understanding industry needs regarding the skills that are required a lot more, and kind of adapting training to a workforce that could be 4 generations deep, or 5, as I mentioned before. So what about the next 10 years? I kind of promised you this. So the map of the decade that I mentioned is really sort of, a taste of where we are with the pandemic, what's happening with economic inequality, etc., climate emergency, and political division. So really a lot going on there in terms of collapse. But as you will see, whenever systems do collapse, what replaces them are new ways of doing things. Human beings are magical at creating solutions. I actually have a huge amount of faith in the human race to solve problems, no matter how bad things are. And that was really where this last 10-year forecast started to focus on some of those themes. So looking for more equity in organizations, rather than everyone being hard pressed and forced to push for growth and profit. Individuals looking for more truth and deepening evidence structures in what they see, challenging the value of fake news and fake information. Ownership, getting a transformation. As we saw, NFTs were just at the beginning of last year. They are a thing now, so a lot more insight, a lot more work being done around digital transformation of NFTs. Collaboration, how we do things as people and how we do things as organizations, really changed dramatically through the pandemic. We've got used to collaborative tools. That's going to still be a part of the world of work going forward, as well as how getting used to working with each other in person again. People will start to challenge what they really belong to, as firms become less focused on badged employees and more on the gig economy and bringing individuals for tasks. People will start to question where the belonging is. So they'll start to look at new constructs, hubs, friendship hubs, community hubs, which will become their new family and their new firm. And people will look for a lot more meaning around the data. They're, start to challenge their beliefs and traditional life structures into much more meaningful lives and interactions. And of course, privacy, as always, is going to be a challenge for anyone, but particularly in this decade, people will become increasingly more sensitive to what they reveal and more sensitive to what's out there representing them. I'm just going to really quickly give you 3 scenarios of things which I I brought up as exercises and potential future signals, which may indicate how work may change. The first one's around a welcome party exercise, and this is one the Institute for the Futures did in their 10-year forecast. And really, it was looking at the climate emergency that's going on now, getting to a state in 2040 where it's so bad that a significant portion of the planet has got to move around into more friendly situations. So this is saying basically, 10 years ahead of that, giving the world 10 years to actually move 1 billion people to safer climates. We need some legislation that makes it easier for them to move and to move bravely and to be really, welcomed in the countries that they're going to. I actually put this up because I wanted to highlight to one of the audiences that I was speaking to that when it comes to the 576 largest urban centres where there was exposure to climate threats, the least risky were in Scotland, Canada, and Siberia. So those countries, certainly those cities that are in those countries, are really the ones that are going to be a target should this ever happen, and if it ever went through, if it ever actually happened. And therefore, we need to be building up resilience to this and capability to welcome these people. The other signal I brought up was the end of space. So massive growth in the space sector going on in my country, in Scotland and the UK and in around Europe. We are literally putting up daily, several satellites to the point at which all of it at the same height, same altitude rather, could well become an issue if there's one collision which is sparked off. And you may have seen recently there was a missile test that did exactly that and caused several million parts of debris which can be tracked to start colliding with each other. If there was a significant collision, that could in fact be the end of space. So companies like Astroscale are huge visionaries. Their job basically is to clean up any debris and to move satellite out of orbit into safe orbits wherever there's a potential for it to be an issue and cause that sort of issue. And then the third signal I demonstrated was really around the world of shipping and offshore inspection and maintenance. The world of remote and autonomous ships is growing rapidly. This is an operations center remote operations center in Southampton, which has just been built and is beginning to be populated, where kind of the skills are, if you saw them, are more akin to gamer skills to remotely operate things with someone who's a familiar sailor kind of overseeing them. So very, very different and a completely different set and fresh set of skills that need to be built. So what skills might we need in 10 years from all this? So these are really sort of ones which have thrown up by a number of people in the Futurist community, which are all, you'll see some of those sort of, routing to signals we already see. So really, when you look at going forward, a lot more around rocket design, blockchain, crypto specialists, as we get the quantum side of things beginning to destroy the standard sort of databases. A lot around climate change, a lot around, both trying to prevent that through reducing meat and increasing lab-grown meat. And then a lot around AI, creating experiences, training robots, training AIs, as well as looking at how the individuals who are left behind actually retrain there as well. So my advice to you is things that you should start to get started today on are, develop your soft skills as a focus in your final year. Your emotional intelligence skills, your creativity are things that you should start to look at. And, if there are courses you can take around entrepreneurial skills, they'll go a long way to actually help you to develop those sort of nice soft skills, because largely it's not about business, it's mostly about relationships. Digital skills, if you're not an IT or a technology person, they're going to be really essential going forward to everybody, regardless of which field you go into. The deep technology that's going to be required within your field are going to need you to have some digital skills there. My top tip, learn to use AI as your augmented intelligence. I believe that was the original intention of AI, or as a number of people thought, a way to sort of, outsource your intelligence, train it, make it your 21st century calculator. In 1980, when I was still at school, the kids who had a calculator were, significantly better off and prepared than those who didn't have it. AI is going to be your calculator in the 21st century. Develop your own strategic foresight or futurist tool as a resilience tool. Spend time, maybe 5%, of a day in a week, just looking at the signals you're seeing and beginning to understand where that may change the future, the impact it may have. And then if you don't like it, begin to sort of get involved a lot more in helping to not make that happen, or a better future happening. And finally, be a lifelong learner, continue to refresh your skills, soft or digital, because otherwise, you'll be replaced by a robot. It's a bit harsh, but yeah, almost every job can be ultimately automatable in the future. So you need to really enhance those skills. And with that, hopefully that's given you a little bit of insight. I would love to hear some questions. So whilst you're waiting for questions, so I maybe just give you some insights to what Institute of the Future is doing right now. So there are really two very big pieces of work going on. One is around urgent optimism. So really helping people to look for scenarios for the future that can help to produce a more optimistic world, and what we can do to build that. And we meet once or twice a week in book clubs, as it were, to share what we're reading about the future and share the signals that we're seeing as well, and then discuss how that could actually play out scenarios. The other big movement is around equitable futures. So they are spending a lot of time looking at education, redressing some of the balance with ethical imbalances in the world, and what can be done there that is feasible and can actually be implemented. That's a very strong movement, as you'd appreciate, in the current climate as well. So,
brilliant. Yeah, it looks like we've got some questions coming through now. Can you see those, Joe?
sure, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, the Bayhan is asking, just can we see the slides? So if we could send them over.
Sure.
And yeah, Laura just said what will you be working on now?
What I'm working on right now, so I'm currently working on a study for creating more entrepreneurial campuses. So helping to understand how we can help universities turn out individuals who have developed those soft skills and more entrepreneurial, either by helping them to create their own startups or spin outs from the university using the faculty, but learning to work together. Learning to take technical skills with creative skills, with business skills, and then deep sort of subject matter expertise to help create businesses and create ideas. Largely fueled by global challenges is where I see it. Take global challenges and see how you can do something about it locally. So that's a study I'm doing right now, which has really pulled in a lot of the work that I've done here, but with also some sense of how that's worked elsewhere in some of the great universities like MIT and Stanford in the US. So that's a piece I'm working on right now. and I continually sort of contribute to other people's futures. So I mentioned the Urgent Optimist sort of community, which does fantastic things. I mean, around trying to help people to give sort of views or a sense of new signals and how that could be an optimistic one. So this week's task, I'll tell you that one, is to take a photograph locally of something we see as a really optimistic signal of the future. Which is not just a photograph of your kids or a news sprout, but something which is a signal of the future. And we're also starting to play with things like Midjourney AI to try and create some artwork, futuristic artwork, to represent those futures.
Brilliant. And Kafia said, when you say digital skills, can we assume that means learning a programming language?
No, not necessarily. So digital skills is basically learning how to use data science tools like AI and big data tools, to using those to gain insight into business decisions. It's much more like that than, as you say, learning a programming language. Learning a programming language would help, but actually you don't need to go that far. There are a lot of no-code solutions out there. There are a lot of tools out there that you can use. You need to understand how to use them. I would class this as a digital skill. You're getting to use digital tools to collaborate. Not everyone's comfortable with them. Some people I know will sit on with no camera on at all, very shy, not say anything, and maybe don't get the best out of a situation to collaborate. So I consider this a digital skill that people need to do, as well as the traditional ones of using PowerPoint and Excel, etc. But you really sort of go into the next level, how you can get to use those tools more effectively to gain insight.
Brilliant, that's good to know. So, and Ashish says, so is there any data science certification or anything around that you are aware of? They feel in today's world having a degree is just not enough. So do you know anyone that can help and that's valued in the market?
So this is getting better and better. So there are a number of data skills programs available as modules online that you can go to using platforms like Coursera or Incendi, and SkillSeeker. There are several others sort of appearing now. So if you're going into this next sort of period of time, have a look online at those. There are also more modules being brought into universities, either as an MSc or as part of business skills and management skills degree courses. So it's getting better. I would like to see, something as part of the work that I've been doing, a lot more options being given to graduates in their final years to develop those data science skills.
Brilliant. All right. Well, if there's any other last minute questions. She said, any tips to enhance soft skills in terms of communication?
Yeah. So there's lots here. So so tips. I mean, in all honesty, some of the more entrepreneurial skills courses are largely about learning how to interview, learning how to collaborate, learning how to listen better, more effectively. So those kind of skills courses, again, you can get online. But my sense is start to enter into challenges. Get into, if you're still at university, get into challenges with your business clubs, etc. And try and find sort of a diverse set of skills coming into that group. And this is really, it's harder for some to develop soft skills because they've been so used to maybe being drilled into excuse me, working on a computer and haven't really developed those skills. That'd be great if you join a club with others who are looking to build something and they're lacking the digital skills to do so. Trying to enter into businesses where you can actually help individuals to create something. And if you are neurodiverse, that world's getting better too. So a lot of large companies like Microsoft and SAP, BP, my old company, are now creating neurodiverse programs at which the skills of the individuals within your team actually need to be enhanced to understand how you work and how you can collaborate. And it's a two-way street. You'll learn how to work more effectively in those environments, fully understanding how you're wired and how you actually view the world and see the world, and finding new ways of collaborating.
Brilliant, thank you, Joe. And I think Idris said,
What's this?
Here we are. We've got quite a few questions coming through now. So it just said, which of these digital skills can you advise someone with a finance background to go for?
Yeah, so I would learn blockchain, and I'll come on to the other question in a little while. Learn what blockchain's about. So there's a lot of advantages to moving ledgers out of servers and onto a blockchain, where there's a degree of I always get this word missing, where we need to sort of look at the provenance of that data more closely. I would look at analytics tools, data analytics tools more strongly, and learn how to use them, learn how to interact with them more effectively. Look at digital twins and the context of data. So rather than just numbers on a page, where did that number come from geographically? Is that telling you anything about it? Learn how to represent data in different ways, be it a geographical context or an ethnic context, etc. Those are the sort of skills you'll need to develop. Shall I go on to the blockchain one?
Yes, go for it.
The blockchain is already implemented in everyday life. You'll have heard of cryptocurrencies being one. The diamond merchant world has moved a lot of their data onto blockchains because the provenance of diamonds, particularly war diamonds, as it were, or conflict diamonds rather, people will need to understand what they're buying there more so. And of course, there's no excuse if you didn't know where it came from. So data like that, which needs to be on a global provenance need, has already moved into blockchain. In future, I can see us looking at things like passports, registration for individuals and human beings moving around the planet, moving into much more of a blockchain context. So it is already here and happening. People are beginning to see where the real value is in moving their data onto a blockchain versus keeping them in separate ledgers and separate databases. So my advice is learn it, understand where its value is. There's a lot of things going on to blockchains which aren't valuable. So yeah, you need to understand where the value is and what it's likely to bring to you.
Great, thank you, Joe. And just Rashi has asked how to market the skills we gained through university in context of being an international student.
Oh, okay. In the field of media and communications. So when I actually help graduates around their both their interviewing skills and their CVs, I stress to them that they need to convey their personality a lot more. So that's where I say it's worthwhile both understanding what you've done by way of communication skills and the context in which you've actually used those skills. If you're an international student, you've already got massive skill there as far as I'm concerned. You've managed to work in a different country. You've learned a culture there. You've learned how to integrate there and to absorb it. So I would actually sort of try and reiterate what you've done there and how you've done it, what position you had, and bring those things into your CV and to your interviews, because they're looking for those skills now. I think you probably see a change in what employers are looking for by way of CVs, not fully away from qualifications, but what's behind that? What did you actually learn? What skills did you actually have? What modules did you do? Because they're mapping that against a set of skills that they have. And I think they'll get much more structured on that to say, have we seen that skill within that individual, either as a qualification or by working whilst they're at university, or the clubs and societies that they've been a part of. So no, I think you expose that. And if you struggle, and certainly in the courses that I've done, some people really struggle with that. You know, I don't really do societies, I don't really do this. So, but you have friends, and you know, just kind of put that cloak of invisibility on for a little while and say, what would you say about me? How am I as a human being? How do I communicate? What's, you know, where are my strengths there that I can put into a CV? And you may be pleasantly surprised, and store that. Honestly, keep those pieces of feedback with you. And if they disturb you, you can change. And if there's something surprising in there that's positive about you, again, keep those. They're treasures.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Joe. So are there any other last questions for now? Moment. All right. Well, thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
It's been really great to hear such a detailed insight and what we should look out for and prepare for in terms of skills in the job market in the future. And it's just been interesting to see the types of skills that were useful back then, but just compared to now, that aren't anymore. And kind of how you've managed the predictions through the pandemic and how you take that into consideration when planning for the 10-year forecast. It really has been really informative. So yeah, a big thank you to yourself and to everyone that attended today. It's been a great turnout, and I hope everyone takes care.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.